Welcome, welcome.
Yo.
We got a great episode of Plant Power Brothers for you guys today. We have the owner of No Worries Filipino Cuisine in the building today.
Actually, partner. Actually more like family member.
Family member.
Yeah.
Okay.
My brother's the head chef, but we as a family, throw down.
But you guys started it up. That was your baby.
Yeah. It was actually, when we all had turned plant-based and vegan, my brother was still in high school. We're 4 years apart, and he actually launched it as a high school program right up the block right here at Oakland High School.
Yeah. So let's take a second. Let's rewind. So, okay. So how long have you been plant-based now?
Vegetarian for over 2 decades, for sure. Right. But vegan, been off and on those 2 decades, so probably a total about 15, 17.
15 years? What made you even, obviously you're Filipino, and Filipino diet has nothing but meat.
You stole my question. That was my question.
We're all aligned though, because I was ready for that one.
Yeah. So how did it even come about? Because the culture is very in tune with food and everything.
I'll just say one of the things is that I've noticed about Filipino cuisine is that it's heavy on pork.
Heavy on everything. Heavy on flesh. Heavy on flesh. Even the vegetable dishes be having some pork in it.
Oh man.
And so I guess to add on to what you were saying, how was that? How was the family response to navigating away from that?
Yeah. What even piqued your curiosity about going vegetarian?
Well, those I heard 3 questions there.
We're going to hit one at a time.
Let's hit that first one, which was, what was the first one?
First one is, how did you even dabble into the vegetarian lifestyle?
Yeah, I think for me personally, and again, I'm super juiced that I had a really great, supportive community and family. Actually, not all the time. Let me rewind.
Let's keep it 100 on the show today.
Man, they was on me. But me and my brother turned plant-based vegetarian into vegan almost around the same time. Right. So he was there side to side with me, and I think that definitely helped. But for me, I had we all had our own individual story.
Yeah.
And for me, it was it started off as a health thing. I wasn't very healthy when I was younger.
So around how old were you when this all started?
I think it was.
We don't want to age you too much for the audience out there.
Right. Probably right after high school.
Okay.
Right.
So 18, 19 years.
Yeah. And I was opened up to because I was super from the slums and the hoods of Manila, Philippines, all the way to Oakland, California.
Man.
And I was looking for something that was a little bit more empowering.
Okay.
And I think part of it was wanting to keep myself healthy, right? And then the health was number one, but that kicked it over. I was still open to it, but health was one, and then eventually I was also, because I was growing up and around this environment that was kind of negative, that I was seeking some kind of, or I personally was going through a spiritual phase in my life.
Okay.
So aside from the health, and I was needed to feel like I need to be healthy because I was a sickly little dude. I'm already and frail and shit. So I needed to feel like I needed to strengthen myself and not just watering from the leaf, but from the root. Mm-hmm. And I felt like my diet was something that kind of opened that for me.
Was it very traditional Filipino diet prior to?
Oh hell yeah, man! Straight up, rice, eggs, and hot dogs, for breakfast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Spam and everything.
Everything. That's breakfast, lunch, dinner. And so, I think it was a spiritual thing that actually kind of kicked it off, and then there was a mental, economical lens that came in afterwards. But there was the health and then the spiritual thing, and I started looking into different practices that was about really uplifting humanity or bringing your higher spirit and finding that your higher self, and part of that is
that paradigm shift.
Yeah, and part of that was having a compassionate lens on life. You know what I mean? Especially coming from the hood and everybody's fighting and beefing and I wanted something a little different a lens on life, and I think that kind of helped it. So started seeing like leaders in the community, spiritual teachers, or specific religions. Like if you dig into the essence of specific each religion, it's like thou shalt not kill, or you know like
that's a universal.
And
universal
you see it in
law.
Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam and. At the core values of all of those spiritual practices before they became religion and became hella fucking, like, hey, we military, we're gonna try to convert you. Before all that shit was the teachers at that time was preaching about, like this higher way of compassionate living. So I think that would kind of kick me over to be like, you know what, maybe I should open up to this vegan, plant-based shit, and I married a spiritual teacher that was like promoting that. It was like, yo, you can't be trying to have peace out there if you ain't trying to have peace in here.
Yeah, that's real.
So it was, so this teacher kind of like opened my third eye into it, and then I had the foundation on the health, and I was like reading shit like, certain Olympians, before they could compete, you had to practice plant-based diet before you be in the U.S. Olympics, some certain Olympians, so shit like that was like,
because they could, a lot of it is called like the Olympic diet, and that's where it kind of like came from, was the fact that they had this diet that they would go on when they start training. Like Carl Lewis was on the plant-based diet when they start training, and most of the athletes do have to do that.
And commit to it before they can come and join a squad, So shit like that kind of opened my eyes.
Your rites of passage.
Well, I think that's probably too, because they have to. If you competing on that level, you can't be half stepping.
Exactly.
And if you ain't on some good quality food when you competing like that, your performance ain't gonna be Olympic level.
Exactly.
And you're a highest performing machine. When you are on that practice. So I think those would kicked it over, and then there was a lens of environmental justice, and so once all of those kind of laid out, then I was kind of firm on like, hey, I want to just try to cross over. This is the shit. This is what I'm gonna fuck with, and I felt like it brought I had a higher connection with my environment,
Exactly.
So I think that's what
start being more with your surroundings and everything.
Yeah, man, and again, I think the spiritual part of it, even though I don't go around and preaching that, you know what I mean, I just kind of keep that in the back pocket with certain folks that want to ask. But I'm always about the health and the environment, but also compassion, like as everybody want to pet their dog and their cat and be like, but they'll still go eat some meat and shit.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm like, how
We're talking about animal rights, but eat a burger at the same time.
Right. So I'm just like trying to remind everybody how you can just, love everything at the same level.
Exactly.
So I think that's what kicked over to me eventually becoming the practitioner of the diet. Okay. Not the lifestyle yet, the diet, because I was still wearing my Timbos. I still had the leather gear.
Right.
So I was, I wasn't fully involved at whatever level 5 Lisa Simpson vegan.
Right. So that brings you to question number 2.
So question number 2 was, and I think you kind of touched on it, but maybe you could touch on it a little bit more. Like culturally, how was it amongst?
Oh yeah, that's a different savage,
That's the black sheep of the family, what I'm saying?
And the part of the history and the culture of the Philippines, we colonized folk from Spain to America and Japan. So part of the reason our diet is the way it is because of these other cultures, right?
It's an oppression diet.
Yeah.
It's a diet that's set up to make it to where people don't rise up because you got to worry about all this health stuff that comes into play, and it only takes place because they took away the natural foods that those people were eating that allowed them to live hella long. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it is.
It shook up the system, the natural system of how indigenous people would eat.
Exactly.
Right? So even if they did hunt or whatnot, it wasn't like at a mass production level like this. It was for the privilege, right? But I like to think even before that, when humankind was taught to learn how to grow food, then that was our level, intellectual level, be like, yo, we can do this shit. Let's do this. But I get how culture is different, and then now here we come to my culture where it's like heavily animal-based food.
Yeah.
So we had to, I remember helping my brother doing farmer's market with the food and being criticized by our elders. Like,
Wow.
yo, this ain't no goddamn real Filipino food. Right? And my brother, my brother, I love him, and he be like struggling because he's a young chef, a young entrepreneur who believes in his work, and I'm over there with him, setting up at 6:30 in the morning and shit. It's raining at Union City, which is like the daily city of San Francisco, where hella Filipinos are.
Exactly.
Right? So we had to go through that kind of like critique. Even my pops was like, that food is the food of the disabled food. Disabled people, but now my pops, obese, like he became our biggest supporter, you know what I mean? But it took a lot of that, and then when I transitioned outside of the business before even all of that was my mom's was like, I've been feeding you my food for over 30 years, 20 years. Oh, no, I was about 20 years, and you ain't gonna eat my shit? What? No. She ain't say it like that. It was more like, you're not gonna eat my food, I'll beat your ass. That kind of talk. But so me and my mom's bumped heads for a little bit. So, but eventually when they kind of like saw that I was dedicated, and and I also would bring in the education without trying to force feed to nobody. But it took a struggle, man, culturally, not just familial, but culturally, like we was criticized, you know what I mean? We was like get reviews that were like, why y'all trying to do this from our own peoples, you know what I mean? And it was like
people you thought you was gonna get the most love from.
Right, but what happened was when they started seeing white folk jumping on it, and then American folk and other folks of color riding on it, that's more conscious and eating. They be like, oh yeah, those are our people, Filipino vegan food, yeah, we remember them. So now we all right. Now we accept it.
Right.
At these times, but now we're hella also thankful that there's like 2-3 like Filipino vegan restaurants or personalities in the out there.
Well, it sounds like what you guys had to face was like the fact that you guys were birthing something, and I'm not sure. I'm not gonna say I don't know if it was the first, but it was the first that I seen of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, you guys were kind of like pioneers of that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because like I could even think about like when I was by the lake, I'd be like, man, let me go hit up the truck. You know what I'm saying? Like I was used to hit the truck up.
Oh wow.
You know what I'm saying?
My brother would be happy to hear that.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like and that was because it was nothing. I don't remember nothing like that.
Right.
And so I think what you guys faced probably was a lot of like when you the first to do something.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying? Then it becomes cool after that.
Yeah. We're like, oh, okay.
Trendy.
Yeah, and then we'd be like, all right, cool, bro. We support that. And it reminded us to be hella humble and humility, because it's like we thought we was fucking cutting. We are. We we cutting edge. We up in there doing this work. That's also feeding our people to be healthy, get them out of this, because out of the Pan-Asian community, Japanese, Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese, like Filipinos have the highest cancer, highest heart attack, highest, like disease rates out of all of that. So we felt like we was doing something that was like the universe was about this. The people will, once they understand, they'll be about this.
Exactly.
Even though the time frame didn't match that vision at that moment, right?
You were ahead of it. You're ahead of the
right. So
the
we
curve.
were like, cool, we'll step back, and then as folks stepped in and started doing similar work, just like tight. Y'all are tight too.
Yeah.
Plus, the movement is we want to get everybody to be more aware.
Right.
So it wasn't about an ego, like we were the first. Y'all should. It was just like, man, we're just happy. Folks is all up in this. That we're in this momentum that. It's not just for the fucking animals or the planet, but it's also for the people. And that lens, no one was really. We was getting a lot of critique for that.
Well, and I think too, for me, like you hit touch on a really big point, is that I think sometimes, people forget about the fact that it is for the people. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the animals, they get taken care of as a byproduct of the choices that the people make. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so I think when we lose that human element, then it makes it harder for people to attach themselves with it. And I think that's the biggest thing is like when it gets introduced, it doesn't have that human element. Like, nah, this ain't about that. This is for your motherfucking intestines.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like this shit is for your heart.
Right.
Well, this is also for your families, like the kids and everything, what you passing down from generation to generation.
And the thing is, it starts with you, because it's like, you know, for you to die from, I said this the other day, I said the worst thing is to watch somebody die from nutricide, suicide through food.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's the worst thing you could ever witness, because it ain't nothing you could do about it. Because that person has to be like, nah, I'm about to make some better choices. We already know the food that we eat affects our brain.
Right.
So some people can't make those choices because of the things that they push in. Yeah, because the things they pushing in their body.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But the craziest thing is, like, when people wake up, you'll always know it because they convince themselves.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't got to convince them no more. They like, you know, it's kind of like with your mom and your pops. Pops was like, damn, they strong at this. Yeah. And this food tastes good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't taste bad.
Right.
And so he was like, so then
but
once they...
that love and that time,
Yeah,
right? That
definitely.
patience.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You might not have that for everybody.
No, for sure.
So that kind of brings me to my next question. Like, how was that transition period for you guys? Was it like a light switch? Did it happen overnight when you said, I'm going from from vegetarian to vegan, or was it a process that you guys took?
I think, I don't know how, I don't want to speak for my brother, but for me personally, you know, I was vegetarian for about 5-6 years before I even considered being vegan. You know, like, hey, that pizza still was good.
Yeah, it's calling your name.
Right. Yeah. And again, I came from the time frame where vegan food tasted like fucking fiberglass and cardboard, right?
Yeah.
So you know, this what folks is having now, bruh, our shit was like cardboard, you know.
This is panacea right now. This
Right.
is smorgasbord.
Yeah, they don't even know how much good they got. So I think for me, it wasn't a lot of options around to transit. I wasn't strong enough in terms of my belief in why plant-based was the best path, right? Because I was like, I was still a fool with the fucking cheese, and that was really it. The egg I kind of totally just gave up on because, again, I wanted that spiritual path. You know, eggs was utilized in a lot of magic to generate energy, you know. So egg for me was like, after I learned now, it's like, nah, good. I'm not trying to have too much negativity. I'm trying to pull out this motherfucker. And now you want me to pull more? No,
I'm trying to detox from all that crazy stuff.
But the dairy, I would still, would fuck with it once in a while. But then eventually the transition period was like slow, but it was also like, I would still pull out, like I would hop in and I would.
I was gonna say the reason why I bring that up because I work with clients that are wanting to transition, right? And some people feel like if they can't transition right away, that they're a failure. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can't do it. It's like, nah, take the steps. If you cut back the meat, cutting back on a little bit of cheese, keep on cutting until eventually you get to that point.
Right.
And I want to let people know that it's two sides of it. It's people that can just cut it out like a light switch, then be like, okay, I'm done, I'm not doing it anymore.
And there's people that gotta plan it out.
And there's people that gotta plan it out, like yourself. That took 5 years being vegetarian, and then once you got to another level in your spiritual journey, then you're like, okay, well, let me fully commit to getting rid of the cheese and everything else that you haven't implemented yet. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so I think it comes down to like having a reason. One of the key things that I heard him say was that most of the people have not researched enough information about food.
Exactly.
Because once you got the information, it's up to you to process that how you need to process it. You know what I'm saying? And if a person's saying I can't do it, it's only because they don't have the information. You know what I'm saying? Because like once you get the information, then you can be like, oh, I'm cool with that.
And I was talking to a young lady last night. She was like, man, I'm trying my hardest to become vegan, right? I said, yeah, that's cool and everything. I said, but don't try to the point where it puts you in a discomfort or a negative space. You don't want to have a negative experience with it because once you have that bad experience, you're not going to reintroduce it. You're going to step away from it and go back to what you know. And I feel like a lot of people try to jump into it, not educating themselves enough about how to make that transition. Just to give you an example, I was talking to the same young lady, and I was like, so what are you eating now? She was like, I eat salads, and I eat bread, and I'm like, and what else? And she was like, I eat a lot of bread. I'm like,
more salads.
I was like, man.
What happens is people, they go into a deprivation.
Yeah.
So they be like, because as a matter of fact, you know what? When I really think about it, when I first transitioned, guess what I was doing? I was taking all type of vegetables and I was grinding it up in water and I was drinking it.
Yeah.
So so it's just like I could see that ideology of like only limiting yourself to one thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's the perfect way to go, but I think that's where the thought process of some people, they're like, oh shit, I don't know this, so let me just do this.
So I know, looking over on your bio and everything, you've been educating the community for the last 2 decades. Like, what made you want to be an educator and go out back into the community and start working with the youth? Like, that's huge. That's a huge commitment. You know what I'm saying?
Word. Well, thank you for that. And I think that I want to align that with some of my experience as that dude, as that youngster transitioning, right? Particularly as an immigrant, as a young man of color, you know what I mean? Like, everything that was going towards this movement or to this lifestyle was in the multimedia was predominantly white and affluent communities. You gotta be either bred out had the knowledge and the intelligence to eat this way, right? So hence you were like, the smarty pants, or you were like some super white or hippie, or that was the generalization, the stereotype, what vegetarian and veganism was about, right? And I think for me, which is also one of the reasons I do this work and created with my brother and created my program, my cooking program, and my blog website, Plant-Based Partners. Follow me, I just started it. Plant-Based Partners. And I think even that is really about how I help others navigate in those transition Big Brother was talking about.
Right.
Like, how can he be strong in his belief? How can your clients be strong in their belief if they're just basing everything on emotion? So we load them up and we front load education, right? And we do it in a way that's like hip to them, as
relatable.
It's relatable, it's relevant, it's culturally responsive to the young black kid, to the young Latina girl. You know what I mean? Like, I started thinking about strategizing and delivering content that educate them about the benefits of plant-based foods, and at the same time it's being delivered to them by either another person of color, or I'm bringing in videos of Kat or G or Monk and Afro Vegan Brian Terry or DJ Kavum. Depending who my audience is. So if this is young brown and black kids listening to hip hop, I'm bringing y'all faces in my computer screen.
Right.
And I'm educating them about indigenous culture. So I'm trying to find a way to merge everything and really sit the education deeper. So if they decide they want to transition, because we're not trying to convert nobody, but we're trying to expose them
Sparks the thought.
and expose them to this lifestyle that's that like is going to benefit them and their community and their planet, right? And it's like that way. So the education part was that for me. So it's like, I can align the skill set that I got from cooking that I learned from my mom and my brother, and then I could bring in my background as an educator and multimedia, doing my multimedia work and theater work and my martial arts work, and bringing all those in, but sliding into food justice too, right? And then some folks are not interested they're just interested in the martial arts, but they'll be like, what else do you do? I got this other thing too, and they're like, oh, what's that about? So then utilizing to bring it in. So I'm launching all of that, and I'm putting my energy into individual those programs and projects, but at the same time finding a way to merge them, right? So bringing education to my community so they could be stronger when I evolved into making the move, because I educated myself, right? So how can we do that to the young folk? And how can we do that to our elders, right? How can we do that to our peers, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of that is like being patient and just being compassionate and being loving. Even though some motherfuckers might hate on you, you're like, you know what, bro? I gotta. It's all good. You can hate on me, but there's something bigger thing that we can do here.
Yeah, the love works more.
And I think it's so important for more of us in our community to speak out and have more channels and be able to reach more people from different angles. Because I'm going on 3 years at the end of March being completely vegan, and as I was doing more and more research, thank you. As I was doing more and more research, like you said, it wasn't that many black and brown people talking about pushing the message, and it was like, man, where are we at? Who's somebody I could relate to? And being from the Bay Area, we're a melting pot of a little bit of everything. So it kind of kept me open-minded to it, but it was like once I really said I'm diving deep into this, it was like, I want to be that face for that young person that might be curious.
That's good, brother.
So creating these kind of programs.
We appreciate you for that.
Yeah, creating these kind of programs, Plant Power Brothers, just everything that we put out there, eating from the soul. It's like, man, I see myself in that person. I can hear the way he talks. He sounds like me. He looks like me. Whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's highly motivating knowing that you have the same vision for yourself and your community to say, I'm going to step to the forefront and put it out there, even though that everybody was hating on the initial, launch of the Filipino cuisine in a vegan way. Like, what made y'all even want to get a food truck when you didn't have the support of the community? Saying like, oh, that's a dope idea, like run with it, while everybody was kind of like, that's not real Filipino food. What was the motivating factor to say, man, we're going to still run with this, we're going to make it happen regardless of what other people are telling us in our circle?
Yeah. That's, again, that's a very deep question and I think my brother as our head chef and CEO, Jay-ar, shout out to Jay-ar, No Worries Vegan. Follow him. But I think it was the brick and mortar was a challenging thing, especially if you didn't have any space like here in the Bay Area, And at the moment, we were all going through some personal struggles individually, and at the same time, it was a challenge to do this thing. The restaurant business is one of the highest business that have the highest turnover rate, right? So even though again we're coming in with this vision that's cutting edge, that we believed in our hearts that's beneficial for all of the circles from individual health to the community to the planet, we were still, it was still a challenge, So I think part of it is, of course, our personal challenges and struggles that we were all going through, and also maintaining the space. That shit is expensive. Realty in the Bay is fucking expensive, but we believe the work needed to continue, or the food, that people still love the food. So the transition was to continue to work and bringing the food to the people instead of waiting for the people to come to us, right? Because the people that we wanted to feed were the people that didn't know about us, and the people that was in communities that probably didn't have the access to travel or etc. So that became that, and bringing the food out to the community. And then we had another transition, right? That right now we wanted to return into the educational part, the catering, the private events. My brother is also cooking with Facebook, so he wanted to kind of retrain and bring in some new skills that wanted him. So he wanted to get better at his work, but at the same time, he ain't letting go of No Worries, and I'm not telling him to do that either. I said, yo, bro, I was like, our vision is for you to keep your food going. That aligns with my vision, which is like bringing the food to the community and educating folks. I was like, well, let's keep it going, you know what I mean? Even if it's just at this level, and then with the dream to come back to another environment, whether it be a brick and mortar or a food truck again. So we just keep the food going, man, really, and then for me personally, is I bring it to my programs, working with youth, and he gets invited to do cooking workshops for like Kaiser or for patients or for the doctors of health clinics and hospitals, you know what I mean? So bringing that work out individually, but at the same time collectively with together as brothers, but also, with the help of our family members,
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons I want to just kind of touch base on. Another reason why my transition became stronger was it wasn't just me. It wasn't just me and my brother. We also had some partners, hence plant-based partners of also being aware of eating that way and being vegetarian. So, so we had other partners in the hood that were also into vegetarian veganism who looked like us, brown and black folk, and we kind of like strengthened. We were like the town vegans. Hashtag town vegans, and it was still street.
Yeah, get that trademark.
Right. It was still street, or it was still like culturally relevant for us from our culture, and it wasn't uppity white or affluent, And shout out to white allies that are vegan, that are all about animals and the people, you know what I mean? Because I think part of the struggle that I have as someone who's been in the community is like, just like in any other community, there's like some conflicts going on, and I think what the vegan community needs to be really aware of, that it is also for the people, like brother said, you know what I mean? Like, and part of that is identifying the struggles of where communities come from, whether if you're black or you're Native American, you're Latino, you're Filipino, or white, but being understanding to where folks come from. So I remember Vance Jones said something like, you can't talk about saving polar bears if you ain't saving Pookie Bear in a corner. You know what I mean? So I think just making sure that vegans of all color, white folks included, just making sure that we're really trying to do our best to understand each other, and knowing where our privileges come, and making sure that if we are about the planet or about the animals, we can also be about the people and what people's struggles, right? As people of color, as immigrant folk, and they don't even have to be all vegan, just making sure that them as people, we look out. Because compassion just ain't about just the animals or the planet. Compassion is about the holistic lens of compassion. That's what plant-based and animal and veganism is about, right? It's about me loving my brown brothers, thank you for inviting me, but also our white allies who's willing to be a voice for animals and our Pookie Bears, you know what I mean? So really just making sure that we are expanding our love and our compassion outside of just the animals or just the planet, this is about the hood, and this is about the motherfuckers in the nice communities and neighborhoods too, right? So, and the animals, so let's bring everybody together.
You got another question?
Yeah, so I got a question for you. Tell me about the martial arts sector. I've been keeping that. So what kind of got you into that realm?
Yeah, man, I think I'm trying to lock that niche down, y'all. Help a brother out. Vegan martial artists, I feel like there's a big, highest performing athletes are the ones that are doing plant-based diet, man. You can just compare one athlete to another, and the data and the science says it all. So, but also as people, we want to be warriors, and even if we're not going and fighting in a war, we want to be preparing ourselves mentally and physically for even domestic wars, right? And as vegans, we fucking love everybody, and we run through the ferry and hug everybody. That's what we want to do, right? However, there's going to be some cats out there, some individuals out there that's going to try to take from us. And we need to do our best to protect our loved ones and ourselves, right? So martial arts, I feel like you don't got to be out there. Obviously, I'm fucking 5'3", 5'2", I'm a little dude. I'm not trying to be out there any bully, but hey.
You ain't finna run up.
Right, but don't run up though.
It's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is like, we don't have to be bullies. We don't have to be uber, ultra machismo and masculine and trying to show how big our fucking eggplant is or whatnot. But we could just be humble and know how to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
But so as a martial artist, I feel like, and there's like cats out there, Nate Diaz, fighters, man, I'm running out of names right now, but there's hella vegan fighters out there that are high performing fighters, right? Tim Bradley was a vegan, I don't know if he still is, but high performing fighters, professional, that are vegan. So I feel like us, as we get, especially as we get older or as we become, we don't have access to working out, whether you're too busy or whatnot, you gotta still find ways to find ways to take care of your body. One is martial arts, it could be internal, learning how to control your breath, learning how to, meditate internally.
Qigong.
Yeah, Qigong, right? And that's all good because you're strengthening your inner organs and your mental state, right? But also physical martial arts that are more active are also are important. And I think for me, I do specifically Filipino martial arts, and I'm also exposing myself to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but just having those martial arts, you want to be able to perform as best as you can, whether it be in a street situation, in a sparring, playful situation, or you just playing with the little ones in your family, right? You want to be able to move and do your best to flow, and at the same time, man, get ready to defend yourself and your family when you have to, right? And it's also a good community of and brotherhood and sisterhood to be around martial artists as well, So, but there's some challenges within martial arts community too, but trying to see the best in every community that I'm in,
Working with the youth and everything, like when you introduce them to the Filipino cuisine, is there anything that they gravitate to that they're like, oh man, this is dope, this is lumpia, this is pancit? Like, is there anything that the kids just like instantly when you guys start cooking up at the schools?
You hit it straight on deck. I choose what's most popular.
Yeah.
Just like if I'm working with youth and I'm teaching about food justice, it's better coming from DJ Caleb if they're black kids, or if they're Latina or Latinos, hearing from Cesar Chavez, who's vegetarian, right? So similar to when I'm bringing food from my culture, I want to know what they know about. They usually be like, oh, lumpias, oh, adobo, oh, pancit. Like, so I'm going to try to leverage what they're already attracted to. Because I'm already introducing something foreign to them because it's vegan.
Yeah.
So I got to make it as relevant and as relatable as much as possible, right? And now all I did was just I tweaked it by taking out the meat, and I'm putting in some plant-based protein, and that's really it, with the food. And part of our food too is like, because it's heavy animal-based, is sometimes when we transition the food into Filipino, sometimes it looks empty, the dish, because it was mostly meat. Yeah. So we have to find ways to either supplement it with, of course, natural, organic plant proteins that are unprocessed, chickpeas, beans, whatnot. Yeah. But again, because of our community and where we want to meet our community, we introduce soy or texturized based protein, and that's processed, right? And we get some pushback from some vegans, it's like, well, that's that extra processed vegan food, and that's fine, level 5 vegan Lisa Simpson, all good, I still love you, but this is for this people, for my people.
That's for
meet them where they're at.
It's
right.
And maybe it's for entry level.
And maybe sometimes they'll maybe be ready for that level. Exactly. Like fucking intermittent fasting and only raw fruit. Maybe they're ready for that later, but let me bring my people first. Yeah. So we introduce plant-based protein that are texturized. Yeah. So it's like veggie chicken, veggie meat. You know what I mean? So and it's getting better. It's getting better, man. It used to be cardboard shit, but now, Americans, the Chinese, they don't fuck around. They make that shit look and taste like veggie chicken. And I used to be that motherfucker. And I done ate all types of flesh. I ate a dog, a cat, way back. So, shout out to dogs. You know my homies now. Don't bite me in the street, man. That karma.
Right.
Like, ah!
So we're gonna be wrapping up, but if you could leave people with some, maybe a book or a documentary that really, helped you at the beginning of your journey, what are some things that you could leave our audience with?
For sure. I think for me, little car alarm back there, but don't trip. It's East Oakland, you know what I mean? As long as it ain't our cars. I think for me, my earlier transition was I was into books that were spiritual, right? But not everybody's into that, right? So I would suggest looking into
you could drop the spiritual books or whatever was spoke to you,
For
maybe
sure.
somebody,
For sure. Well, in that case, definitely Queen Afua, and I'm sure folks know of her. She kind of one of them women, black women, that kind of brought herself back from having a disease, you know what I mean? And she saw food was like a spiritual thing, right? So shout out to Queen Afua. Heal Thyself was a little green book, hella easy to read. I'm from the hood. I don't read. I YouTube shit, but I'm trying to read more. I'm sorry, I'm reading more. But that was a book that I knocked out. I also was into the spiritual meditation, and I found this amazing lady that was a spiritual teacher. Her name is the Supreme Master Ching Hai, and I looked into her literature, and it was good because it was a lens of spirituality based on food. So what was it? Immediate Enlightenment. That's a free book. I think you can find that on the web. Right. Outside of the spirituality, I would say docs would be like, of course, What the Health. That you need to see that because that's new, right?
Did you ever watch Earthlings?
Nah, I need to check that out. Yeah. And I would say I would go to Google and be like, I would say look for vegan celebrities or vegan athletes or vegan leaders or vegan. That's what I did. I looked for vegans or plant-based people that were like inspiring, like mount your belief on something that you truly value and you're inspired by. So, I look for people who are leaders to you that you're inspired by and be like, yo, I'm fucking, I'm vegan. Like Cesar Chavez is vegan, Rosa Parks is vegan. Or John Sally is vegan. Like people that are doing positive work and doing social justice, environmental justice, those were what I wanted to do, and I wanted to surround myself with that. So do your own research, look for who has affinity and has a calling for you, and if there's people that look like you, find them, because you'll find them, and if it's people across difference from you, across gender from you, across nationality from you, find them, let them be a pillar and inspiration of why you're doing it. Like, damn, vegan monk is that. Cat is tight. Coach G is tight. Like, those are like individuals that I find and I mount my value and my belief so it gets stronger and stronger, So it's not just the Rosa Parks or the Supreme Master Ching Hai or the Cesar Chavez who is vegetarian. It's continuing to build. So continue to expand your wings and knowledge. That way your transition is easier. Your tongue will miss it less. Your mind will crave it less. Right. Because you have a strong foundation of inspiration, of a motivation, and the belief like, damn, this is better for the planet? This is cutting down on water? This is cutting down on global climate change? Like, what?
It's kind of like knowing your why.
Knowing your why, man. And find your why at every crevice. Social justice, environmental justice, inspirational, spiritual, someone who's sexy, go and fucking insert yourself in it.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming out. Make sure you let everybody know where they can find you on social media, all your different platforms, website, whatever you have for them.
I'm trying to strengthen my plant-based partners, so plant-based partners at IG, and then let's start there. I do a martial arts program and class, and that's beside Eskrima, so you can find me as well. But because in this community, let's be each other's plant-based partners. I'll be your partner, You be my partner.
We
These
partners
are my
already.
partners.
Yeah, we partners already.
Let's push partnership and partnership and fellowship, brotherhood and sisterhood. That way we can all have a better environment for the next generation after us and all that good shit. And everybody's healthier and sexier. You know what I mean? It tastes better.
It's coming.
Let's do all that shit.
Right.
There you go.
So,
So Coach G, let them know where they can find
you
you
can
at.
find me on Instagram at plantbfit1. And where can they find you at, Cap?
Man, first of all, they can find us on
yeah.
Plant Power Brothers on IG.
My brothers.
With the Z. Make sure you guys subscribe to our channel right here and hit the notification buttons because we're going to have videos coming out every Tuesday. We're going to have great personalities throughout the community spreading their knowledge on their journey and how they've made their transition and how they're impacting the community around them. You can find me personally on my IG page is Cat Fitness 3 on IG, and then you can find me on Facebook at Cat Fitness. Guys, thank you for tuning in this week. We had fun sharing all this great information. If you got something knowledgeable from it, make sure you share it with a friend. So take this video, hit that share button, and we'll see you next week. Peace out.
Peace.